practical. Oh, there we go. Once again, for you that are now just listening to the recording, I'm excited to be here for you too. Uh, so today we're going to get a lot more practical. In the last session that I taught, by the way, I heard you guys had an incredible panel discussion last week. That's just fantastic. The opportunity to collaborate and just listen to multiple people discuss being in battle together. There's probably nothing better. So I'm a little bit jealous actually that I wasn't there for that, but I heard a lot of great feedback from that. The goal today, and I'll begin sharing screen in just a little bit. The goal today is to help one another. This is not going to be me helping you. This is us going to be helping each other to overcome what I believe is the single business or biggest challenge every single business faces. And even more so, the single biggest challenge that every salesperson faces. And that is getting the prospect to say yes the first time. We often believe that the challenge is getting the final yes to close the deal. But if you think about your success rate, if you think about your close ratio, and we're actually going to get into this a little bit more because we together are going to think about breaking down our goals. Because if we don't know what our end goal is, we're not going to know how much effort we need to put into achieving that goal. But if you think about that, on average, in this industry, from the time you get a qualified prospect onto the phone, that first call, the traditional close ratio is somewhere between 20 and 25%. So for every first real appointment you have with a client or a prospect, you can typically close 20 to 25% of those. That may be 12, 16, 18, 24 months out, but that is the traditional close ratio. Well, if your close ratio is 25%, which is about average, that's nowhere near the close ratio of initial outreach to initial appointment. Because statistics say that you will have to make about 100 attempts before you get one person to agree to pick up the phone for the first time. You're going to make 100 attempts before you get somebody to agree to listen to what you have to say, to even convince them to get into the sales conversation with you. Meaning that conversion ratio is somewhere around 1%. If you're really good in this industry, it may be 2. That's the single biggest problem every single one of us faces. If you had more leads, more opportunities at the top of that funnel, you'd be creating a lot more business opportunities and revenue for yourself and for your agency. And so that's what I want to help us solve today. One of the things that we're going to do is we are going to do this together. So initially, even when I talked to Charles, we had thought about breaking this up into some smaller groups to work through this. I've decided not to do that. We are going to do that collectively because there is going to be what I believe so much wisdom shared by you guys and so much experience shared that I want everybody else to be able to hear what it is we're coming up with together to create so that we can all go out from today's call even and execute in a whole new way on how we are reaching out initially to prospects to get them to agree to schedule a first meeting with us. So we're going to jump in. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get rocking here. And by the way, along the way today, it's going to take a lot of dialogue, a lot of questions, a lot of comments, a lot of opinions. So if you don't do that and you want to get out of here in 15 minutes, that's fine. But I don't think that's the intention for today. So let's make sure that we're really jumping in to participate with each other. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let me get a thumbs up from somebody that you see my PowerPoint. You do? Perfect. All right. Whoever that was Chris. Chris, you're the man. Okay. We're going to dig right into the beginnings of this. So when I think about the need to create an outreach, an engagement strategy, which is what we're going to do today, we have to think about the end if we're going to create a strategy to get there. So Right out of the gate, I would ask you to consider for yourself how many deals you want to close in the next, we're going to call it now 9 months. So I want to hear already, and again, we're going to be talking a lot today. So for somebody out there, any one of you, how many deals, how many employer groups do you want to close in the next 9 months? So someone just speak up and fire away.
6.
5.
Who?
5.
Okay, 5, 6. What else?
10.
Someone said 7. 3. 10. Who said 10? Who was that? Paul. Paul, you're in a home run. Paul, what size groups are you selling to?
Mid-size.
So like that's the like 100 to 500, is that what we're calling
let's say 20 to 100, yeah.
Oh, 20 to 100. Okay. Okay. So that's reasonable. Okay. So we heard as small as 3, I think I heard, and as many as 10. So inside of that, then we have to consider, and again, this is very tactical, but this is super important. How many final presentations? So by the way, whether you've thought about this or not, this is your opportunity to start taking notes. We're going to build this whole thing together this morning. Yeah, I wish that we were together in person so I could be walking around the room, looking at you, taking notes, watching you do this. But write down that number of deals because we're going to build this backwards. So if you said 10, write down that first one. If you said 3, write down that first one. From there, then how many final presentations do you need to give in order to close that number of deals? So Paul, I'm going to go back to you. How many final presentations do you need to give in order to close 10 deals?
I'd say probably 40.
40. Okay, so write that down. 40, 25% close ratio on his final presentation. Kristen Hall, I see you there. You look like you just want to say something to me. How many deals do you want to close and how many final presentations do you think that's going to take?
So I would want to close 5, but probably 20 for us.
Okay, so 20 final presentations is what gets you to 5 closed deals.
Yeah.
One more person. How about Gabe Ricks?
50.
50 final presentations
Yes.
gets you how many closed sales?
12.
12. Okay. All right. So we're starting to hear some numbers here and some percentages in there. But we can't just think about that. Thank you, by the way, you guys. We can't just think about that. We now need to think about how many initial or introductory meetings do we need to have to get to that number of final presentations, to get to that number of closed sales. So, Abby Olson, how many closed deals did you want this year?
Closed deals, I said 3.
Okay, how many final presentations?
Oh goodness. Let's say 25.
Okay, 25, which means how many introductory meetings do you think you have to get to 25 final presentations?
Oh goodness. Introductory. Let's say 70.
Okay, 70. Okay, I just want you to hear, you guys, what Abby just said. And this is not, there's nothing wrong with this, but Abby has to have 70 in-person or probably at least face-to-face Zoom meetings in order to achieve her goal for the year. 70, meaning she's having 6-ish appointments a week, a month. 1.5 a week need to be happening in order to get there. That's a lot. I mean, if you think about, we're 2 months and a week into the new year. Have you averaged an appointment and a half a week every single week so far? It's a lot. But here I'm going to go a step farther, and then again, we're going to really consider how deep we're going here. So, how many outreach attempts do you need to make to set a number of appointments, to close a number of final presentations to get to your closed sale. So Dan, I would love to say your last name, but I want Yanarella. Is that how do we say it, Dan?
Yanarella.
Yanarella. All right. So Dan, how many deals do you want to close in 2023?
8.
8.
And in terms of presentations to close, I said 20. Initial intro meetings, I would say like 40. And then,
Okay.
you know, going to outreach, probably got to be anywhere between 500 and 1,000.
Okay. Okay. So let's give him the benefit of the doubt on the lower side of that. If it's 500 a month, that means that he has to have 125 outreaches a week, meaning that he's doing 25 a day in order to get to that number. From a time management perspective, that's significant in and of itself. But those are the things that we want to consider. Now, something that I want to challenge every single one of you folks to, and this goes back to, and we're going to touch on this just very briefly in a minute again. This goes back to the type of client that we're pursuing, the type of prospect that we're pursuing. If we have a better idea of our ideal client, and we have better language around our initial outreach attempt, we can bring those numbers down, because the average percentage of conversion typically looks like this. Usually, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, 100 outreach attempts will usually get you 1 appointment. 1 appointment, so then I'll go to, so for every 4 appointments, you get to 1 final presentation. And for every 2 final presentations, you get to 1 closed sale. Is the average conversion. So if we're going to reverse engineer that, for every 1 deal, we should have 2 final presentations. For every 2 final presentations, we should have 8 initial meetings, 8, not 9, 8 initial meetings. If we need to set 8 initial meetings a month, if we're going to do 12 deals, then we would need to have 800 outreaches a month. But because some of you said 3, I can cut that 800 in thirds. But again, we need to be considering, and there's going to be some tactical ways I'm going to share with you in a little bit that we can even increase that conversion ratio higher. But I just want you to think about the fact right out of the gate that we need to be time committed to this process, because we need to have a lot of good quality volume if we're going to get to that end game. For whatever number that you wrote down there, I want you to keep those things front and center, not just today, but moving forward. As you move into the month of April or March, are you consistently making the right number of outreaches to set the right number of sales, to have the right number of final presentations, to end up closing the right number of deals? You want to be tracking that. Most salespeople and even most agencies are only tracking closed sales and revenue. And it's a big mistake, because we don't really know how we got there. So this is something that as you move along in your career, you're going to want to get really good at, is knowing your numbers, knowing your conversion ratios, so you can spend the right time in the right places to close the right number of deals. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about this. And again, I'm just going to breeze through this, because we talked about this last week, or 2 weeks ago. The first way that we are going to increase that conversion ratio is to know who we're targeting, to be really, really laser focused. Because in a minute, we're going to start building messaging around these ideal targets. And you're going to do that right now live today. And I'm going to help you with that. But we have to be centrally focused on a specific type of target. We talked about demographics. We talked about psychographics. We talked about geographics. All those things should weigh in, because the more particular that we get, the more specific that we get, the better off we're going to be in increasing the likelihood of setting that first appointment with the right person, which increases our conversion ratio all the way through the pipeline. We need to think about where we're going to target them. Again, we talked about this last week. Where are we finding these people? Web, MyEdge, social, referral. We're going to talk about referrals a bit today and how we can incorporate that into our outreach strategy. And then how will you reach them? You need to choose the ways that you are doing initial outreach. If you're only doing email, you're making a serious mistake. If you are making phone calls without leaving voicemails, you are making a serious mistake. And if you are using social media, LinkedIn particularly, as a tool to only blindly message your prospects, you are making, you know it's coming, a mistake. We have to be a lot more tactical and intentional about what we're doing. All right, so here we go. This is where crowd participation is going to get really, really big. So if we are going to have any chance of setting a first appointment with a prospective client, when we pick up the phone to call that HR person or to call that CFO, we must give them a reason to keep listening to us. We have to give them a reason to continue to keep that phone to their ear. And so I want to know, before we get even going, because I have a breakdown here, and then we're going to expand on this a lot. I'm going to pick on somebody. So Joshua Stern, you look like a guy that's ready to get in the game. So Joshua, I'm a prospective HR person, and I want to hear from you, and I want you to share with your peers, and we're going to stumble through this because it's really awkward when we get put on the spot. But if I'm a prospective HR leader, and you're going to call me, what is it that you're going to say to me that's going to wow me into wanting to continue to listen to what you have to say? So tell me how that initial outreach would go for you.
So first, I'd usually start and just make sure that they're actually in charge of their employee benefits. Just make sure I'm reaching out to the right person. And then I would just explain.
Okay, so what would you say there? So say it. I want you to pretend like you're talking to me. We're actually on the phone.
Hey, Ryan, it's Josh over at Axial Benefits. Really quick, I was under the impression you're in charge of the firm's employee benefits. Is that correct?
Okay, perfect. Okay, let's pause there. So for all of the rest of you, how many of you? We're just going to do a hand raise so we can see this. How many others of you do something very similar to that, qualifying that you're talking to the right person before you even get started? One. I see Jeff raise his hand. Okay, so I'm going to come back to you, Joshua. Let's see here. Tyler, what is your out of the gate? You pick up the phone to call a prospective client. What is it that you say to wow me into wanting to keep listening to what you have to say?
Yeah, typically, so we host events. So we'll host like virtual webinars with a lawyer that we work with. And so what I would do is I'll just say, like, we've got one in 2 weeks. So I would say, hey, whatever their name is, I wanted leave of absence laws changed in California that may affect your business. This is Tyler Dutchover, and I just want to invite you to a virtual webinar with Jeffrey Hopper, and we'll be going over some of those leave laws, absences. And so that's how we kind of get them in the pipeline started, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, we're going to keep going. The first thing that we want to do, and again, this is a formula that I would suggest that you lay out as your framework. You're going to make tweaks to it. Mine is not perfect, but I believe that this is highly successful in helping you to set appointments. And we're going to go a lot deeper than this. But hello, my name is. You need to come right out of the gate and communicate to them who you are from the get-go. We're not trying to play games. One of the things that salespeople have often been told to do, and therefore commit the sin of themselves, is they try to play coy. They try to trick prospects into believing that you're not making a sales call, even though you're really making a sales call. And so out of the gate, state your name, state who you work for, and finally, what people really want to hear. I don't know about you, but what I want to hear from somebody is what they're passionate about. Have you guys ever heard of the statement, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care? So Chris, you're shaking your head. Yeah. Why is that so important? Why do you believe that statement is so important?
It's because people buy from who they know, like, and trust.
Okay. And so if somebody doesn't care about what they're about to sell you, what does that tell you?
They lack passion.
Okay, they
And,
lack passion.
They made it about them and not me.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, great, Summer. They made it about them and not about me. So let me ask you, Summer, what is it that you would, I know you spoke up. Oh no. What is it that you would love to tell me that's going to change my world with my employee benefits? I'm the leader of their HR.
Well, it's hard for me because I don't do a lot of cold calls. So I do a lot of find out who they know in my circle, and I call that circle, and then that's how I call into them is, hey, I was just speaking with Todd Archer. We just got on the topic of employers that are looking for just a better way to manage their benefits. And he suggested that I give you a call.
Okay, so let me ask you real quick, Summer. How often does that work?
Well, I just got started in production. And
how long ago?
Oh gosh, like a month ago.
Okay. For a second, hold pause there. Somebody else was shaking their head. I saw that did something similar. Dan, was that you?
Yeah, we do that through Chad Jenkins' blueprint. We call it running the Ruta, referrals out of thin air.
Yep.
You know, just utilizing connections and people that you know and finding who they're connected with on LinkedIn and just being able to reach out and say, you know, such and such said you're a good guy or good woman, you know, and kind of going from there. And, you know, kind of taking off that original, you know, blocking and shielding using a name that's familiar.
And then what do you tell them? What do you tell them that makes them believe that you actually love what you're telling them, or that you're passionate about what you're telling them?
I wouldn't say, it wouldn't be, you know, I would love to show you or show passion. So, you know, that's definitely something that I feel like could add value.
Okay. Paul, were you starting to say something there?
Yeah, I think it's important that you still make it about them, and you talk maybe about KPIs. You've got to find the benefit that they're going to receive quick within the first 15 seconds to captivate their attention. And that's how
absolutely.
And inference is huge. I was working with so-and-so across the street and help maximize their KPIs, increase their ROIs. And they, you know, I thought of you. You make it about them and you're going to have a lot better success rate in getting that appointment.
Yep. Okay, perfect. By the way, you guys, the farther we get along in this, everybody's going to share the script that they've created for themselves. So just know we're all going to get called on at some point, and we're all going to recite this. So if you haven't started building this for yourself, it's coming. This is fun. Okay, that's great. And Paul, you make a great point, right? We're trying to point to illuminate something that's important to them. More than just one of you have said that, but that's such a wise point. What I'm trying to communicate here, and then we're gonna take another layer down. What I'm trying to communicate here to you guys is, more than anything, people care about what people care about. And so if I'm just kind of sitting back and I'm just like, you know, I really would like to tell you about all the ways in which we're going to change the world with your benefits, and we're going to save you money. You should really have an appointment with me. You know, I just don't feel that. I don't like, I want to know that you truly want to save my organization money, that you absolutely want to deliver the best outcomes to my employees for their healthcare. I want to know that you care, that you really, really care. Because if you don't care, if you don't demonstrate that you care, in my mind, all you are is another broker trying to peddle your services in order to collect commission from me. And you already are all up against that anyway, right? You're just another broker until you break through. So when we talk about wanting to show people that we're passionate, like that's the idea. My name is Ryan James Miller. I am a performance coach and consultant, and I would love to show you how I can radically change the way that you're prospecting in order to achieve the goals that you have for yourself in your organization, right? It's just something simple that's going to roll off your tongue and get going. So that's the beginnings. Again, we're going to break this down some further, and then we're going to create an entire script for ourselves. And I'm going to keep calling on people because this is so fun. So this isn't just about stating who we are. This isn't just about talking about what we're passionate about or what we love, but we know that every single person on the other end of the phone, whether they'll admit to it or not, is experiencing a problem. It may be a great problem, and we hope that when we call them that the building is burning down because we've got the fire extinguisher and we're ready to put it out. But maybe their problem is top secret and they don't trust you and they don't want to talk about it. And so how do we begin to uncover and identify problems if they don't trust us? Michael Luzzi, which one is it?
Luzzi. Sorry, buddy.
Luzzi.
Yeah.
All right, Michael Luzzi. I want you to tell us all, I want you to share with us all how you address the fact that there's a problem to be talked about with a prospective client when you call them for the first time.
Well, I mean, recently I've been using just the national average of a 13.5 increase on healthcare costs in the month of November in 2022. So that's one thing that I just break the ice right away and I say, you know, how is your renewal? What type of increase did you see? And I want to start hitting that pain because I know I have a product here that I could help them with in reducing their healthcare cost. So that might be one problem that I know they're going through with a fully insured plan. But yeah, that'd be my first one that came right off the top of my head.
Perfect. All right, Jeff, what about you? What's one way that you are starting to poke the problem pineapple? No, I just thought of a third P, poke the bear, in order to get them to start feeling like their pain is really pain.
Yeah, so I'm mainly focused on the experience and making their life easier no matter what. And yeah, we'll most likely be able to save them a lot of money as well. But I think, you know, if we think about what we actually sell, we're selling ourselves. We're all representing the same insurance companies at the end of the day. And so what we really sell is service, basically. So it's taking a lot of work off the plate of the HR, the CFO, potentially controller, whoever it is that handles these things. Oops, sorry about that. And yeah, just saying that no matter what, I'm confident we're going to make your life a lot easier. Just improve your entire experience as it pertains to your employee benefits, and absolutely ensure that you have the best, most competitive benefits possible. So it's kind of a twofold. It's mainly service focused though.
Okay, service focused. Okay, so you guys, when I think about ways to talk about problems, to talk about pains, it really comes down to empathy. Again, this goes back, I should have had this quote at the top and it's come to mind after, but people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. People don't care about all the ways that you can save them money. People don't care about how you have the most creative solution to reduce their healthcare costs. People don't care until they know you care. Empathize with them. Get into this mindset, this frame of mind. When you go to pick up the phone, one of the things that you should be thinking about, and this is going to be over dramatized, but this is really like what comes to mind for me. You can tell I'm a very passionate person. And by the way, as you're taking notes, your first area should have been who you are. The second part is problems you're talking about, right? So this is the second component to your outreach communication. But when I think about, if I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to call an HR leader, I want to think about all of the ways that they are frustrated that they're hurt, that they're angry, that they're disappointed, that they're sad, that they're overwhelmed. What's keeping them up at night? My heart literally breaks when I think about all the ways in which HR is being destroyed in the middle of that organization, dealing with all the people's problems, dealing with the C-suite, bitching about the fact that they're spending too much money on benefits, trying to figure out how to make everything work. And all the while, there's this human being in the middle of this that's just being tossed to and fro. Empathize with them. And by the way, right, we're still just in the original, they picked up the phone and they said, hey, this is Ryan. I'm the HR leader over at Ryan James Miller. And you've got 45 seconds. This is all in that amount of time. But we're trying to shock and awe them in a way to get them to want to listen to what we have to say. So we empathize with them. So the pivot from this is who I am, this is who I work for, I would love to show you how we change your world. We're pivoting to this place. We haven't even allowed a word in edgewise yet. I know that, I understand that most HR leaders are challenged too. So here's where I want to bring it back to you guys. So Tyler, what is one thing that keeps HR leaders up every single night?
I would say most of the ones that we work with would be either employee retention or benefit costs. So, and maybe though, actually for ours, I would say the admin side of it, just with, you know, if you've got a lot of turnover, particularly in SoCal and some of the groups that we have.
Okay, so Tyler cheated and he just gave three answers.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Okay, there are a few things. Kristen, what about you? What is one thing that you know that HR leaders are really challenged with?
Compliance right now. That's been a big one for us.
Okay, they are up at night thinking about all the ways that they don't want that company to go under because they get sued or because they get audited, right? They're trying to keep up with that. Absolutely. What else? What's one more thing, Allison Hahn, that you hear that HR leaders are really struggling with?
So considering I just left HR after 15 years, like last week,
Perfect.
or, you know, like a month ago, they're a dumping ground. They just get, they get more and more piled on them all the time without extra resources within HR. And they're getting squashed.
Yep, absolutely. So again, we need to put ourselves into their shoes because we are trying to both align with them and trigger them at the same time. They're struggling to keep benefits costs down, to ensure that their employees have access to quality health care. They really care about that. To stay on top of administrative duties required to maintain their benefits plan, to attract and retain quality talent. Oops. So these are many of, but not all of, the things that are keeping HR leaders up at night. These are the things that we want to talk about. But again, because we have one shot, we've got to pick one. So when I pick up the phone and I say, hey, this is Ryan with Ryan James Miller, and I'd love to show you all the ways in which I can change your world with benefits, whatever that may be, then I'm going to say to them, and I understand that as an HR leader, you are probably struggling to stay on top of all the administrative duties that are required just to maintain your current benefits plan. We have to have a go-to that we're going to communicate to them right out of the gate. We're hopeful that when we do, that it's something that resonates with them, that they're willing to just listen to what we have to say. Now, typically at this point, where we're challenged is now what do we say? So, Paul, sounds like you've got a pretty good head on your shoulders there. What's one great thing that you say as you are trying to communicate, like, I understand you have a problem, and then what?
Well, I think it's important that we use an inference on who we help with those problems in another business. Again, it creates credibility, it creates problem solving, and if these are the top of minds of HRs, I think we need to reference that. And if we don't have those, maybe we use one of the other members in our firm, or a success story is what I'm talking about. We talk about a success story. I would think is
Absolutely. Yep. So, oops. I'm going to bring these all up because Paul brings up a wonderful point, and I want to get us to a break so then we can come back and start to lay this out for ourselves. But we're not trying to sell, we're trying to solve. And one of the ways that we can help to solve their problems is by showing them, as Paul alluded to, that we've solved other people's problems.
You can use the feel, felt, found technique too, Ryan. That's what
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so whether you speak to a specific client or to something that you've done, you are tying the problems that you communicated, that you empathized with, you're tying a solution to that problem. And you can have all four of these. You can have 4 different outreach scripts, 5 different outreach scripts. That is, this is who I am. This is who I work for and what I'm about. I understand that this is a problem you experience, and this is a solution that we have to that problem. Now, for most of us, this is where we stop. For our clients, we've been successful in solving cost containment with innovative plan design and blah, 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 whatever that may be. Would you be interested in setting an appointment? How many people think that that is a sufficient way to finish off us asking for an appointment with these clients? Does anybody feel like that works well? Summer says yes. Anyone else? For all the rest of you that don't think so, what's missing? We've introduced ourselves. We've laid out an alignment to a problem. We've communicated a solution to the problem, and we've asked for the appointment. What could be missing then?
Specific relevance to them.
Okay, there's a possibility, specific relevance to them. What else could be missing?
Maybe leading them to believe there's more that we could do that we can discuss in the meeting to give something for them to look for in the meeting.
Okay, so talking about what else is possible. Do you think that? Oh, go ahead, Paul.
I've always thought it'd be a good idea to kind of lay out our process, so they know that it's a 3-step. I work from the blueprint for success process, and I think it's important they know, because the first thing I think a prospect thinks of is how much work it's going to take to go through the benefits, to all the again, how much work they have to do already. So we have to, I think, I like to identify that before I hang up the phone.
Okay.
You could potentially
Absolutely.
show a client list of people who are relevant in that business who also use you and who your business works with, so they can find that relatable.
Okay. So that's there too. Absolutely. And I think all of those things are valid things to consider. There's one more thing though that we're missing. No organization's end goal, end game is to implement a technology solution. No organization's end goal or end game is to improve employee communication. No organization truly has an end goal to cut costs for their benefits. You may be thinking to yourself, well, now I'm cutting you off because you're not telling the truth. And here's what I'm telling you. Organizations care about outcomes, they don't care about solutions. This is what is missing more often than not in our initial outreach attempt. Here's who I am. Here's a problem that I understand and empathize with. Here's this potential solution to that problem, but that solution provides an outcome. That's what we want to communicate to them, because that's what the prospect cares about more than anything. Focus on the outcome that you can create for them. I would like to invite you into a 30-minute meeting in which I can show you exactly how we have helped our clients to save money in order to fund an additional another initiative they have in the organization, to save time so you can begin to allocate resources towards other projects that you want. Allison, I'm sure that you know this, being in HR. There were so many things that you guys wanted to do, but never had the time to do because you were too busy doing the crap that you didn't want to do, right? And so if I could allow you to invest your time into something you really cared about by taking time from you with something that you hate dealing with, wouldn't you want to talk to me a little bit more?
Yes, and I really like the idea of being invited rather than me having to set up the meeting and have, host you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I don't have time. Yeah.
And we're talking about HR just because of the context of, or just because of time, but this goes just the same for a CFO. If you're talking to the C-suite, they care about things other than the solution. The solution is a means to an end. For you guys to achieve your financial goal for your organization, for you to sell 10 deals and make the money you're going to make, your end goal is not to make the money. Your goal is to make the money in order to then go pay for the things that you want out of life. It's a means to an end. The solutions that we provide are just means to an end. If we're going to provide a better healthcare experience for their employees, what does that do for the organization? And so finally, oh, go ahead. Who said that? Joshua? Was that you?
Yeah. I thought you were asking a question. Yeah, like helps with employee
sure.
retention if you have like a rich benefit package.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so again, think about that. If we go all the way back to the beginning and we think about the fact that, this is Ryan, here's who I work for. I would love to show you ways in which we can help to create a better healthcare experience for your employees. I understand that you are challenged to attract and retain top talent right now. And we're able to create a solution that does X, Y, and Z in order to create a better healthcare experience for your employees, which will in turn keep retention high and attract new employees to your organization. And where I love to tail off on this is this, and then we're going to take a break and we're going to come back and we're going to construct a few of these together. One of the last questions that I love asking is, so to Allison's point, I want to invite them into a meeting. I'm the host, I'm in control, I'm bringing them in. I'd like to invite you to a 30-minute meeting in which I will show you exactly how we have helped our clients too and talk about outcomes. And then my final question is, do you see any reason why it wouldn't make sense to schedule this meeting? Why is that question so important, you guys? Yes, Allison. No, you're muted.
Because if they're in a 3-year at the beginning of a 3-year contract, now might not be the time.
Okay, so if I say that, then I'm going to know it's not the right time. Why else, Chris?
I was going to say because you're checking for impact to see where they're at in the process.
Yep. Okay. For time's sake, I'm also going to let you guys know that you have just psychologically cornered them. Because check this out. Do you see any reason why it wouldn't make sense to schedule this meeting? There's 2 answers. The first answer that we want is no, I don't see any reason. And it's like, great, when would you like to schedule this meeting? If they say yes, then guess what we get to do? We get to ask them why they don't see a reason to set the meeting. We get to hear their objections right away, and we get to address those objections on the phone instead of being told no and then guessing about why they hung up on us.
And you also get
You
them,
guys-
you also get them to
Go
the
ahead.
first yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You're getting the objections out of the way up front.
100%. 100%. Let's just lay them all out on the table. And then, Paul, to your point, with the blueprint process, that's when you get to tail into, you know what? We have a process in which we lay out A, B, C, which I'm going to demonstrate to you, X, Y, and Z. So then we get to articulate the depths of what are available to us. But if we start the conversation with, hey, I want to show you the process that we've created in order to help you achieve X, Y, and Z, people are like, what? But if we get there by empathizing, demonstrating outcome, and then closing this way, we leave them in a place where we're still going to get plenty of people that say we don't want to meet, but we're going to get a clearer picture as to what we're really trying to accomplish. And that is the goal. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to take it's 8:50 right now, my time. So all the way to 11:50, you can figure out your own time zone in between that. We're going to take 4.5 minutes. So I would appreciate everybody being back here at 55, 5 minutes before the hour. And then we are going to talk about, we're going to come up with a few dialogues for this. And then we're going to see how this lays out as it relates to our phone and email outreach, social media outreach, and even referrals. So we'll be back 4.5 minutes. Go take a restroom break, a shot, a cup of coffee, whatever it is that you want to do. We'll be back in a few minutes. See you guys in a few. All right, 5 minutes goes really, really fast when you're only given 5 minutes, or when you're only given 4.5 minutes. So we'll let everybody trickle back in here and get cameras back on.
This is really good stuff, Ryan.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that.
Probably one of the better sales trainings I've had in a long time, to be honest.
Oh, I appreciate that a lot. Thank you. I'm going to send you a nice gift for that kind word.
Signed autograph. Can hang it on my desk.
I'll send you a signed book as soon as it's released. Okay, so let's dig in. We're gonna have a few people that are gonna trickle back. Their clocks were broken. So what I would like to do now is I would like to have 3 brave souls in somewhat of the format that we have talked about. So who I am, how I empathize, solution I provide, outcome, and a final question. I know that was a lot. And so you can slowly work through this. This does not have to be perfectly fluid. You could just read line for line off of some notes, hopefully that you've taken. And so who would like to be first up to do this?
I can go.
Who was that?
Abby.
Abby. Okay, Abby, I want you to write a note down right now. My email address is ryan@ryanjamesmiller.com. For you doing that, I'm going to send you a $50 gift card to Amazon. So you send me an email saying I went first and I got a $50 gift card with your name on it.
Cool. Thank you.
CC me and I'll take 25.
No chance. All right, Abby. Let's show off for your peers what you got.
Oh gosh. Okay. So hi, I'm Abby Olson. I work with Nolte Insurance as a HR and benefits sales consultant with 8 years of HR experience, specifically in benefits. I am able to relate to your day-to-day pain points because I have lived them too. Love the opportunity to tell you how I can become not just a partner to you, but a true extension of your HR team and relieve some of those responsibilities that you currently have on your plate. Would love to invite you to a 30-minute meeting to show you exactly what that would look like, the resources we can provide to you to save money, time, and get the best healthcare experience for your employees. Do you see any reason why it wouldn't make sense to schedule this meeting?
All right. A couple of quick things. It's always easy to armchair quarterback. So that's what I'm really good at doing. I would change the word pain points to something along the lines of challenges. When we talk pain, people sometimes push back on that, even though it's true. So I understand the challenges that you're facing.
Okay.
The only other thing that I would probably do is I would tighten up the beginning. So your 8 years of experience is really helpful. But I think that if you cut all that out and even just said, I understand the challenges that you're facing, or being in your shoes previously, I understand the challenges that you're facing because it's just a time thing.
Okay.
And then overall, I would record yourself saying that in a human voice. So don't try to rush through it. And whatever amount of time that took, cut enough words out to take about 20% off of it.
Okay.
So that'll be a challenge you can take for yourself.
Cool.
But
Thank you.
I think you did a great job overall and you're the winner. All right, no more winners, but who's going next? Great job, Abby.
I can give it a try.
Who's that? Josh Stern. All right, Josh. Was that you?
Yep.
All right, let's rock it.
How's it going, Ryan? This is Josh over at Axial Benefits. So really quickly, just wanted to call and introduce myself as well as just share with you how we can help lower your employee healthcare expenses. We have a couple solutions here that can help with client retention and employee retention. Because, you know, you can offer a more competitive benefits package. Just wanted to share a little bit more about that in a 30-minute meeting. Do you see any reasons why you'd be opposed to taking that meeting?
Okay. One thing I heard in there at the very beginning, and I know that we do this a lot, so this is a lot of us, but you don't have to tell me that you're calling to introduce yourself. You've done it by way of you stating your
Okay.
name and where you're from. So that would be one thing. The other thing, and again, I'm sure you're not going to do this on a call because we're being put on the spot, but for all of you that are making calls, we're not doing this in person. So I cannot suggest enough writing down verbatim what you want to say and reading from it. But practice reading from it. So I used to do this really fun thing, and I don't want to take a long time on this, but I have a videographer that will shoot a lot of video for me when we're out and about. And when it came time to say something, it would get so scripted so quick. And so we would work through this exercise where I would say it in a really funny voice. I'd say it in a soft voice. I'd sing it, which nobody else wants to hear. I recited it so many times that it became natural for me to say. So write your scripts over and over and over and over and over and over again. And then when it comes time to make the call, read from the script, because you don't need to memorize it. Read from the script, but you're going to read from it naturally because now that's your natural voice coming out. But good job overall. The only other thing I would say, Joshua, is at the beginning, you talked about saving me money. And then towards the end, you were talking a lot more about employee retention. And so there could be a disconnect there. You may want to address the fact that I understand you're struggling, you may be struggling to attract or retain talent or something like that. So just make sure that your pain point connects to your solution and ultimately to your outcome. You're not going to be able to hit on them all. That's the risk that we're taking, by the way, you guys. We can't say 3 things, 3 ways, 3 times on one call. We're going in with one opportunity, and if it doesn't work, maybe we can pivot towards the end, but we just have to take the shot with the thing that's the most likely to be a challenge for them. And by the way, for most of us, we think that's cost, but that's not what's normally keeping HR people up at night. And so I just want you to consider that. When you're calling the CFO, cost. When you're calling HR, consider their burdens, consider their challenges that they are facing. Call Allison, she'll tell you all about them. Okay, one more, and then we're going to move through this. Who wants to go last here?
I can try.
Who's that?
This is Griffin.
All right, Griffin. Griffin, you got a great last name, Griffin.
I know.
Good job.
So lucky. I'm sure we're related somewhere down the road. Might be all the way back to Adam and Eve, but there's something. Okay. Well, hi, Ryan. This is Griffin Miller here. And I am a proud professional benefit advisor at BIM Group, an employee benefit consulting firm that has the privilege of serving some of Kentucky's most recognized employees and employers. I pride myself as an educator of benefits because I can help employers and their employees. I strive to introduce myself to companies that can benefit from progressive strategies and also to help make the HR's life easier and recruiting and retaining employees especially. I would value any opportunity to learn more about your business and your vision for benefits. And I certainly respect your professional relationship and look forward to hearing from your interest and direction. Do you see any reason why we cannot have a 30-minute informational meeting? Thank you very much.
Okay, the 2 things that I heard, one is I didn't necessarily hear pain. I heard the possibility of pain with what you talked about with solution, but again, we're trying to hit them in the heart somewhere. And then that was very wordy. And so I would just continue to review that, and maybe similar to with Abby's, I would look through that. I would say it a few times, and then I would start cutting unnecessary words out. Things that may be repetitive, things that sound cool, like you're a good guy and you work for a great firm, but at some point, you know, here's the funny thing. This goes for all of us. No matter what you say about how great you are, you're a liar to them until you prove them otherwise. And so when we are trying to talk about we're #1 in the country, we're the biggest, we're the best, we're the brightest, Nobody's calling them and telling them they suck. So we don't necessarily have to say those things. They are implied simply because everybody says them. So for all of us, I would reduce the need to glorify ourselves, and I would just go right in. Here's who I am. Here's what I understand you could be challenged with. Here's the way I can potentially solve that problem and what it can do for you. Are you ready to dance?
So something specific, like in Kentucky, Humana is coming out of the mid-market. I could call and say I could offer a solution for that, like the UBA consortium, right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
gives a specific solution to fix that pain. Is that something that you would be better?
Yep, absolutely. So I got a client right now. They're a national benefits firm, and they got 2 business development guys, and all they are doing is calling and talking about pharmacy overspend and the ability to carve out. Now, they automatically lose out on so many opportunities because they're not self-funded and they don't want to go self-funded. And so they can't even see if they're having that problem or not. But they don't care because they're focused on a very specific niche right now. And when it hits, that person perks up right away, and they're setting appointments like crazy because they're focused in on one specific area. So you pick it for you. Okay, great job. You guys can keep working through these. I'm going to commit to you that if you have a dialogue that you want me to review, if you send it to ryan@ryanjamesmiller.com, I will look at it. I will provide some feedback and opinion, maybe some suggestions on things that you can do, and I will send it back to you within the next couple of days. So I'll do that for every single one of you. If we had more time, I'd keep doing it now. Okay, let's talk about then how this plays itself out, because it's great to have a script. And I know we're coming near our time here, but this is how we're going to apply it. By the way, I hope you guys understand the value. The reason why I spent the majority of our time with language is because words matter more than anything when we are attempting this initial outreach. Remember, I said at the beginning, this is the hardest challenge we have to overcome. And so we want to spend the most time getting our words impeccably correct to wow them into wanting to meet with us. Once you guys get in front of them, you can deliver. But it's this that needs to be perfected. And I have never met anybody, myself included, Chad Jenkins, who's a wizard at this, still will tell you he struggles with language. It is brutal. But if we continue to focus on perfecting this, we will be so damn good we cannot be ignored. Okay, once we have this down, we need to choose a lane. Are you going to call? Are you going to email? Are you going to use social? Are you going to create referral opportunities? By the way, you guys, just because somebody refers business to you, how many times have you gotten an email from somebody that said, hey, I'd like to introduce you to such and such, and that deal goes nowhere? It happens a lot. We still need to put our best foot forward and be compelling with that referral in what we're trying to do for them. And heck, if you have to use a carrier pigeon, use it. I'm sure you could go find one somewhere. But we have to figure out a way to get in front of the people that we're trying to get in front of, especially with this initial outreach. So there's a lot of options available to us. I'm going to show you something really, really quick. So I'm going to lay this out, and then I'm going to show you how I do this for my clients in real simplicity. So I've got my script. I've built that out. I've put together a list of prospective clients, and then this should be my process. I'm committing to a specific number of outreaches every single day. We're going back to how many deals I need to close, how many presentations I need to give, how many first appointments. It's going to translate into how many outreaches I need to have every single day. You've got to commit to that. And the only way you can commit to that is by blocking out the time. If you are in business development, if you are in sales, you should be committing about 50% of your time to the initial outreach and filling of the top end of your funnel. And so you've got to find the time to carve this out. Removing all distractions means taking this absolute disaster of a distraction device and throwing it away, or turning it on do not disturb, closing your email, whatever it is, make sure that your time is intentional and diligent in this outreach. Show up and put your best foot forward. Too often, because this is such a frustrating thing, this is a throwaway activity. We're like, oh, I'll make my calls later. No way. Make this of first importance. Prioritize it and make sure that you are showing up in the best way that you can. So I'm going to show you something really, really quickly. I'm just going to dump it up into my screen up here so you guys can see this. But thumbs up, everyone can see the spreadsheet. Perfect. Okay. So I know that most of us use CRMs. I'm a tech guy myself, but there is something about having this, having this spreadsheet printed out on my desk like an 11 by 17 placemat, where I've put together all of the data that I need for everybody that I'm going to be reaching out to. And then over here, I'm just going to log the dates that I'm making attempts to reach out to them, so I can keep track of the prospects that I'm reaching out to. You can automate this. There's all kinds of things you can do, but I'm going to tell you right now, that means that you have to go in, you have to log in, you have to set it up. Whereas this, you print it out, you set it on your desk, and you just start writing by hand. We actually have pencils and pens that we can still write things with. We don't need to type everything. You think it's funny, but it's so true, right? If you want this sheet, I'll email it to you. You can email me and I'll send it right back to you. You can have this. But this is a fantastic, simple way to have in front of our face what we need to do every single day. And then if you need to make 20, you go through 20. If you need to make 60, you go through 60. Whatever it is, you have this here and you have all the data in front of you. You know when you reached out to them last. You know what if you called them or emailed them, it's just in front of you. So you need to have this set up and ready to go. Again, I'll send this to you if you would like it. So that is if we're going to do phone and email, and you're going to have these slides, and so you can look through this process and set it up for yourself. If this is referrals, okay, I know that we all love to say that we get referrals and it's so great, but referrals take work too. And so with that initial script, you make a couple of tweaks and you can have a similar process, and you're going to have these slides so you can follow this process too. I teach a 1-hour training just on creating referral opportunities, but we have that script, and then we can go to all of our clients and we can ask our clients for referrals. And then when we get that referral, we have a script to reach out to the referral and compel them to want to meet with us. They're not just meeting with us because they're obligated because somebody gave them our information, but because we understand their pain, we've got a solution, we'll produce an outcome, and we're great people to work with. So this is a process that you can follow to create more referrals and to increase the conversion ratio by being more engaged with your referrals. But you need to have those scripts in place, that initial language that compels them to want to talk with you. Don't rely on the fact that you got their information from somebody else or that somebody gave you a praise report. It's just still not enough. And we know that because we've been given referrals that never go anywhere. So again, you can do this via call and email, which I suggest call being always the first way that we go about trying to connect with and reach out to people. We can do it via email. We can create referral opportunities from this same outreach engagement strategy. And by the way, in, I don't know, like 4 weeks, I'm going to help you create a 21-day process. So it's not just going to be initial outreach, but we're going to create an entire month-long strategy about outreach, engagement, follow-up to pester them into wanting to meet with us. So that will come. But for right now, this is about setting your initial appointment. And then finally, when it comes to social media, people always ask, like, how do I create new opportunities on social media? How do I set appointments off of LinkedIn? Number one, the best lead generation is done by providing great content. You have to show up. You have to be posting on social media, but then you also have to be engaging on social media. So that means I'm going to lay these all out so you can see these. You have to be present. You share educational content. You can share how-to content. You can share best practices. We're going to get into this in more detail in weeks to come. But I wanted to share this with you as a primer to what's coming. But I also want you to understand that the best social media strategy in the world in creating content still does nothing to set appointments if you don't have that weapon of that first script to reach out to them and connect with them. You still have to compel them to want to talk to you. And so we'll get into this in a lot more detail later on, but you can have this as a way to just kind of have an idea of how to get started if LinkedIn is not your thing. There are opportunities to be had, but you have to be very intentional. And again, you have to set yourself apart by giving them a compelling reason to want to talk to you. So whether it's cold outreach via phone and email, whether it's warmish outreach via social media, or it's reasonably warm referral opportunities, it all starts with our ability to communicate clearly and efficiently who we are, what we can do, and how we can do it. And focus on getting that first appointment. Because once we get there, the conversion ratios tighten up so far. But we have to put more effort into that initial outreach. So with that, I want to spend the last 5 or 10 minutes. If you have it or if we have it, I think we do. I think we have up until 9:30 if need be. But I just want to spend some time dialoguing around any questions that you guys may have as it relates to your initial outreach or best practices that are working in terms of actually setting appointments, because your peers need to hear it. So what's going on with you guys out there? What's working and what are you still challenged with as it relates to setting that first appointment?
I'd say what's working well for me is leveraging relationships, where it's relationships that my parents had or I have. Before getting insurance, I was a teacher and still coach, and then I'm on the alumni board of the school I was teaching at, because I am an alum of the school. And leveraging those relationships, whether it's I'm a deacon at my church as well, and so leveraging those relationships and telling people about what I'm doing, and especially coming from education, where you have to have the heart, as you said, comes first, and you have to connect with people, and it goes with building that trust. And I feel like if people trust you with their kids, they're going to trust you with their insurance in a lot of ways, or at least know your heart's in the right place. And so leveraging that has been very beneficial for me and very helpful when reaching out via email or phone call to people.
Okay. And Griffin, how many appointments is that getting you?
So
weekly?
My goal is to what I've been trying to do is send about an email a week about setting up something initially. And I've been at BIM for about 4 months now. And I think I've had about 6 appointments. So it's going pretty well so far. And those who had said no said, well, keep us in your mind in future years, and just stay connected with us. So it wasn't like, no, we're not interested in the end of conversation.
Yep. Okay. That's good. Regardless of where you're at, if this goes for all of us, we're going to run out of relationships.
Yes.
And so we also need to be incorporating other things into the mix, but that's great. Okay. Who else? Something that's working well, a challenge that you're having. We are all ears and we can all pour into this.
Hey, Ryan, it's Jeff here. I'll share something that I've heard a couple people say this morning, including yourself, actually, if we want to get very granular on language that we're using to schedule the appointment. right? And
Yeah.
earlier, I think I said we're really selling service. But in the initial conversation, the very first cold call, if we're talking about cold calls, we're really selling a future meeting, right? That's the main thing that we are selling is a future time to talk.
Yep.
And I heard a couple people say, when would be a good time to meet? And I've learned the hard way that that's the wrong way to word that. Instead, suggest, give them a couple of options. So I've got some time in the next few weeks, with the end of March or something to that effect, or is morning or afternoon best for you? Instead of giving them the opportunity to try to come up with something out of thin air, let's make a couple of soft suggestions. And I also just like to use the word schedule a time to visit instead of meet or schedule an appointment. It sounds a little bit more folksy. If you think that's cheesy, that's fine. But I just like the word visit and get to know each other a little bit better so I can understand your benefits goals and see if I can make your life better. So, but I guess specifically, I would never ask when's the best time to meet. I would suggest like the first time I could meet would be, third week of March, how is the 14th, not 14th, but 20th, whatever. Give them a couple of the suggestions so that they can say yes or no.
Yep. The only thing, okay, a couple of things to that, and I really appreciate that. There's a couple of things to that I'm going to just lay out for you guys to consider. Number one is, if you take a shot by throwing a few dates out and they're not available on those dates, you've just given them permission to say no to you. And so you now have to recover from that rejection by suggesting more dates, which then gets into this game. When in reality, while I really respect what you said, you may want to just consider saying, I would like to invite you into a 30-minute meeting. Do you see any reason why you would not proceed in scheduling that meeting? I haven't said when, I haven't said anything about at your convenience. What I want them to do is to agree to the meeting first, and then we set a date. So I've gotten them to say yes to the meeting before we talk dates at all. So that's number one. The other thing that you mentioned in there about inviting them to visit. In certain cultures and contexts, I believe that's probably a great idea because that's comfortable for people. If that's me, I'm never visiting with anybody because my time's too valuable and I'm not wasting it having a conversation with you. Like, I don't want to hang out with you for coffee. I don't want to sit and BS about life with you. I want, if I'm busy, which HR people are, CFOs are, if I'm busy, I want you to tell me why you want my time and why my time is worth your time. So again, I would say, Jeff, if it's working for you, keep doing it, but just for all of us, pay attention. If we're doing something consistently and it's not working, we need to ask ourselves why it's not, and then go back and evaluate those smaller things to determine whether or not we need to make a little change. There's many schools of thought there. There's another thing that was pinged in earlier, and I think this is a really good time to say this too, because I've been talking a lot about language. So I talked about passion. The other thing that I want to communicate is the importance of confidence. We need to be confident about the words that are coming out of our mouth. We need to be confident about the pain we're talking about the solutions we provide, about the outcomes that we produce. We need to be confident in communicating who we are and what we do. One of the ways that we destroy confidence is when we stutter. Now, I'm not talking about your, if you literally have a stutter. I'm talking about when we struggle to get the words out of our mouth, when we default to ums and likes and uhs. Those aren't cute pauses. Those are detectors. Those are red flags in my mind that you're stuck. And unfortunately, when you get stuck, you typically default to selling a feature and benefit. It just comes so quick. So for all of us, when we build these scripts, again, this is why, read it a million times ahead of time, and then read it on your calls. Practice, practice, practice. I'm telling you guys right now, I had a call when I was laying out a process for a client. I read it. I mean, the greatest benefit to being virtual right now is nobody can see me reading from notes. Like, take advantage of that. Be prepared so you are not caught, so you're not backed into a corner. So you are very clear about what it is, that you intend. So those are just a couple more things. Okay. One more question, thought, opinion, idea to make us better prospectors. What you got?
Yeah, I had just a quick question on your social. So I know you said you're going to talk about that in the future, but I was wondering if you do, because like you mentioned you have a videographer, right? So the know, like, trust, video is the best way to get in front of people and that. So I was wondering if you have any like budget for ad spend that you do on LinkedIn or on YouTube for targeting like particular lists or prospects that you're kind of looking into, or what kind of your process is with that?
Yeah, so mine is definitely a little bit different from your guys' approach. What I would recommend for you is use a cell phone camera. That's actually what I end up using 75% of the time for my own content. Make sure you have a good mic. So at least headphones in your ears, if not some decent microphone. And then it's far more important to consistently show up than anything else. So, and show up where the people are. So if you're targeting HR professionals on LinkedIn, go follow them. You guys should all be paying for Sales Navigator, or your agency should be paying it for you, because then you can be following people that you're not even connected to. Like their posts, comment on their posts, engage with their stuff. Steve Martin once said, the comedian once said, be so good you can't be ignored. Be so good about the value you contribute and what you give to these people by showing up for them that they can't ignore you. That way, when you call them, like, they're not going to see a comment on LinkedIn and respond to you and be like, hey, Tyler, meet with me. But they're going to have seen your name so much that then when you call and say, hey, this is Tyler, they're like, oh, I know that guy. And so it's far more to me about awareness. I will get into some more details in the future about some other backdoor ways in, but in reality, it's about showing up. I like 60% plus of my business right now comes from inbound, unsolicited LinkedIn connections. Inbound, unsolicited. It's not because I'm spending billions of dollars. It's because I show up consistently. People get to know me and like me and trust me, sometimes for years before they ever reach out to me. And so that strategy is a lot longer term social. It's going to take a while to build an identity in your community that people are going to be aware of. But as you show up, people will get to know you. And for some of the peers out there, if you're following, like, pay attention to what some of the other people are doing and the engagement that they're getting. Who cares about you getting your friends to like your posts, about your fellow coworkers to like your posts? It's all about getting people to engage with you that are willing to buy from you or refer you to somebody that's willing to buy from you. And so again, we'll get into that a little bit in some more detail, but I just cannot stress enough. This sounds so silly, but just show up 2 to 3 times a week. Be sharing something 2 to 3 times a week. Be commenting on other people's posts. If you do that, you are going to warm up the opportunity to then call them and for them to pick up the phone because they know who you are. But that's a great question, Tyler. All right, we are literally at the end of our 90 minutes. You guys, I don't know about you, and I'm not looking for any kind of like puffing up of my head, but this is what I love. I love being able to get into the war room and really work through these things. This is such a simple idea about building an outreach script. But again, this is probably the most overlooked, the least paid attention to, and the least studied thing that exists. So if you guys put time and attention into this, you will win far more appointments. There's other tactic and strategy that goes into it, but without this as your foundation, nothing else is going to work as well as it could. It may work, but not as well as it could. And for some of you looking to close 6, 7, 8, 10 deals this year, you need to be damn good up front in order to close that many deals on the back end. So Ryan at ryanjamesmiller.com. Please reach out to me if you have questions, if you want that spreadsheet, if you want me to look at your script. I want to do everything I can to make you guys as successful as you possibly can be. I appreciate your time. Charles, thank you. It's been a joy.
Look, all I can say is that every time I meet with you, Ryan, I learn more and more. And I wish that we all share your passion in communicating, because that comes through so clearly. Anyway, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week. And of course, there will be a survey to follow. Take care. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
Ryan.
Have a good one.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Bye.